Hello everyone, and thank you so much for backing our campaign. This video is going to be a quick demonstration on unboxing, setting up for the first time, and then packing the game up. Let's begin with the main event, the core box of Dead Throne. When it first arrives, of course, it's covered in a plastic protective layer, which we take off. And then when you open the box, you're presented with all the components. First is the rulebook. Put that aside. And then, of course, you've got everybody's favorites, punch boards. We'll be punching those in a bit. You've got the standees and then your medallion pieces. And then these are the two health boards. In the main box, you've got your scenario box. So for those who have bought the scenario pack, the components of the scenario pack will go in here, which I'll show you later, as well as any other components that you come up with for your own scenarios, such as notes, pieces of paper, custom made miniatures or whatever you want can go in here so that everything stays together. Here you've got your market tray. I'll show you how to set this up later, but this can be passed around the table so that everybody can access the market no matter where they're seating. As we dive in, we've also got the tuck boxes. These are quite unique to Dead Throne. They're self-supporting, so I will show you how to set these up in a bit. Further in, you've got your character cards and your market cards with all the prices of all the items that are in the market. And here we go, the 10 tiles. These rest in the bottom in this hexagonal spot. There's a little finger lip there so that you can grab them. These all connect together. No matter how you want to connect them together, it doesn't matter. They're back and front as well. On some of the tiles on the back, you've got the dark side, which also has some special effects, and depending on the scenario, you might have to use these. And we've also got components like the health trackers. These two here, the rectangles and the hexagons. These can just be opened up and placed in one of the corners of the main insert. You've also got your dice. These can also go in one of the corners of the main insert. And in here, you've also got your region stones. These are important for quite a few of the scenarios of the game, including the main competitive mode. These will go in another one of the corners. After that, you want to grab your standees insert with the medallion pieces. The medallion pieces go inside the main insert along with the region stones in the same corner. And all the standees can go into the remaining corner of the main insert along with their bases. Inside, you've also got all of the cards of the game. We will be setting these up later along with the tuck boxes. So I'll put those here for now. Inside, you've also got these plastic card stands. These can also go into the scenario box on top. Now the next step is to set up the tuck boxes. Like I said, these are quite unique to Dead Throne. So I'm going to show you how to set them up now. First of all, you start by pressing down a little bit on the side and these should open up. Then at the back, at the short end, you just place these two down and then put the back in and they should click into place and hold. Now, the unique part is this lip. What does this do? When the game is packed away, this folds round and holds the cards in like any other tuck box should. But the unique part about this is that you can also fold it the other way. Underneath, there is a little hole, and when you fold it all the way around, that end of the tongue goes through that little hole and holds it in place. You might have to press down a little bit for the first time just to make the paper find its position. But then this will hold itself up during the gameplay. This is important because each deck you draw from the bottom and you place back on the top. This is because there are a lot of cards and you're going to be drawing and placing back quite a lot, and it is a lot easier to draw from the bottom and replace on the top than trying to replace at the bottom. At the bottom of the box, you can also see what type of deck this is. This is very helpful when the decks are on the table and you can't always see the top of the box, which also has the same symbol on it. Now that we've set up one, time to set up the rest of them. Now the last two tuck boxes are for the market cards. These are just standard tuck boxes because the market cards don't live in the decks during gameplay. They live in the market tray, which I'll show you later. Now that all the tuck boxes are set up, it's time to put some cards in them. So we're going to get rid of these for a moment and open up the decks. So these decks are mixed, sort of. Most of them are in their decks, but some of them are a little bit mixed up. So what we would do is open them up and then separate them into their decks so that we can put them into the tuck boxes. Now the way you do that is, well, there's three options. First option is you can just look at the back and match the illustration to the tuck box. There's also a symbol at the bottom of the card. That again matches the tuck box. Every deck has a unique symbol. And then thirdly, if you're completely lost, you can look at the unique reference code that is on every single card and match it to a card that you're sure belongs to that deck. The first letter is the first letter of that deck. Q, for example, is quests, L is for loot, R is for rock, F is for field, D is for docks, and so on. So what we'll do here is go through these, match the backs, make sure they're all good, and then put them aside. This one, for example, has an item on the back, but I can see that the symbol at the bottom is for the loot, so I'll just put that in the loot pile, and it matches the symbol on the rest of the loot deck. So again, I'll just put those to the side. Now the scroll cards are unique. They all have the same back, and that's because your opponent isn't supposed to know what scroll cards you have. Instead, in order to separate them, the front of the cards are all different into three different categories. The passive scrolls have a blue banner at the top. Defensive scrolls have a brown banner at the top and a grey background. And offensive scrolls have a red banner at the top and a bit of blood spatter around the scrolls. You can match these to their decks because the color of the banner is the same as the banner symbol at the top of the tuck box. The last thing are the market cards. Now there are two decks for these, so you'll split them roughly half, and you want that halfway point to be the beginning of a new category. So rings, 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 then ropes. So doesn't really matter as long as it's roughly half. Now they can go into their own decks. So now that all the cards are separated into their decks, we can just put them into their tuck boxes and then put them back into the box. So these cards go in, the top goes into the back of the tuck box, and you just pull that out and flip it around, put it back in there. And when these are in the box, they will be pressed up against each other, and then the cards won't be able to come out. Now all of these tuck boxes have a bit of extra room, and that is for card sleeves to go onto the cards. So now that we've got all the tuck boxes sorted, they can go back in the box. But before we do that, it's time to set up the punch boards. All right, so it's punch board time. Everybody knows what to do with these. On here, you've got your tokens, you've got your 1-piece coins, your 5-piece coins, and your 10-piece coins. And on another sheet, you've also got some health tokens. So all you have to do, punch them out and put them into the market. And we're done. When you finish setting up the market, this is how it should look. The 1-piece coins over here, then the 5-piece, then the 10-piece, and then your health tokens. You will also get some blank tokens on the sheets. These can be put into the scenario box and be used however you like during scenarios, and when you create your own scenarios, you can draw and write anything you want on these. Quite handy. Now before we go on to how you pack the box, I want to talk about the other components you can get as add-ons. First up is the scenario pack. Now when you get the scenario pack, just like the core box, you open it up and you'll have various items in here, including other punch boards, which in this version I have already punched out, just so I can show you what you get. You'll get the rule book. You'll get a bag full of cubes, and these are quite important. Best to keep them inside this plastic bag. You'll also get a little cotton bag, which is where all of the mini tiles will go. Now these mini tiles are punched out and they'll just live in here, And this is because in certain scenarios you want to pick a random tile, and so you'll mix them up in this bag, draw one of the tiles, and then you know what it is. And then you'll also get some trackers. There's a few of these here, and they're used in various different scenarios. You'll also get some cards and a couple of tuck boxes for those cards to go into. I've already built these tuck boxes. They're pretty standard, and then the cards just live inside. You've got your mini objectives, which can be played as little side quests for each person or to collect points. And you've also got your player flags. So each player will have some flags, and again, depending on the scenario is how they will be used. And the last thing you'll get are these little enemy pieces. On the front, you've got the image of the enemy, and then on the back, you've got their unique reference numbers so that you can identify which card it is specifically. These will work in conjunction with the enemy health tracker. You lay it on the table with the enemy underneath it so that you know which enemy that health relates to. And again, depending on the scenario is how they'll be used, but it's a way of giving enemies extra health. You will also get 3 more tiles, which fit in the main box so you don't have to worry about storage. The next add-on is the language pack. This is a pretty simple box. Inside you will have the rule book in the chosen language that you selected. You will also have every single card in the game. These are again set up in the same way that we talked about earlier. And you also have all of the new tuck boxes. Now these are important if you plan on keeping the English version of the cards, or for our original backers who have the original cards. You can put the original cards or the English cards into the original tuck boxes, or you can switch them out for these tuck boxes depending on how you want to play the game. Or if you don't want to keep the English cards or the original cards, please recycle them. The final add-on I want to talk about are the miniatures and card trays add-on. So you've got the miniatures here. This will stay and fit inside the main box, so everything can stay together. And you've also got 7 of these card trays, which are very important for organizing all of your items during the game. These will fit again in the main compartment, and we'll talk about that next. Now that we've got all of our components, we can begin packing the box away. So if you purchase the miniatures and card trays add-on, then you start with placing the card trays in the main box. You start with 6 of them at first, just like that, so they lay flat. And then you can place all of the tiles on top of those. If you bought the scenario pack, then the extra 3 tiles can also fit in all of this as well. And then the last card tray goes on top like that. Next, we just place the character cards and market tray cards on top of the tiles. And then we place the tuck boxes into this spot here. It doesn't really matter which order you put them in, they all have to come out in the end. Remember keeping this lip over them so they don't come out. And when you've placed all of the tuck boxes in, they should sit nice and flush over here. The next step is to place the health boards over these corners. And these will protect the items from coming out. And then on top of that, you place the market. And if you bought the miniatures and card trays add-on, you place the miniatures on top of there. And then with the scenario pack box, you place that into that slot there. And then the rule book goes on top. And the lid. Now before we finish, just a few examples of how some of the components will look like once they're set up.
First up is the tuck box. This is how it should look once it's popped up. Next up is the card tray with the character underneath, weapon at the front, shield on the left, and armor in the middle. You've also got items on the bottom left and a rucksack on the bottom right. The health board is set up depending on the character's items. You can read up more on that in the rulebook. And last but not least, this is how the market should look like once it's set up, with all of the market cards propped up so that they can be passed around and bought and sold throughout the game.
That's it for this quick video on how to set up the box. We hope you have an awesome time playing Dead Throne.